What's up, everybody? It is your girl, Kimberly Janelle. All Things Kimberly podcast, where we talk about faith, family, and finance. Before we get into our topic for today, I need to bring awareness to my apparel sponsor, Pressure Apparel. Oh, nothing on the sleeve. This Dinish's. This is family. palaceofpressure.com for all your t-shirt needs, all the things. Go check her out. She's doing some amazing things. Y'all listen. He like, what we talking about? What we just gonna go with it. I got some stuff in my head. So this is like week, I don't know. Let me not count the weeks because I don't know what week this is gonna air. I was hoping that we could air this on Father's Day, and it might come out on Father's Day. I don't know, but if it doesn't, it doesn't matter. What I promised y'all was that like once a month, I was gonna bring my dad in and we were going to, are you comfortable? You need me to scoot over time?
I'm good.
Okay. Once a month, we were going to do an episode called Letters from My Father, where we get to hear the perspective of my dad. I've shared before about how like this my dude, everybody know this my dude. I fight my brothers over my daddy. Like I just don't play right about my dad. And it's not until you get a little older that you really realize the impact and the influence that your parents have had on not just raising you, but also the way that you parent your children, and positively or negatively, right? I see a lot of how I deal with my kids, how I talk to my kids, how I listen to my kids. And it's a direct reflection of how my father was with us. And um, so thanks for being here, Pop.
Happy to be here.
We got the little professional mic and stuff. I feel like a professional.
You are a professional.
I try. So let's go, because I've talked about a lot of stuff on the podcast in regards to me and you, like how we are so similar. Probably the most out of all of the kids. Like I should have been James Jr. because just our thought process is the same and whatever. So let's start at the beginning. I love when you tell the story about times when you would be getting ready to go and saying goodbye, and you turn around and I'm getting my coat.
Well, that story originates with me having a young child and being married and like most young couples struggling. And
Because you were out how old when I was born? 21?
I was, yes, I was 20, turning 21. And I had started working at General Motors, but at that point I was laid off, work a month, off 2 months, work another 2 months, off 3 months, never consistent. And so Karen was working, your mother, at Burger King, I believe at that time. And so long story short, you and I were together all the time. And that was an experience.
How young was I? I had to
Well,
be
you had to be
car seat.
there was no car seats in them days. You throw your
Well, this is why I was thinking, because I remember the story of I would be crying
yes.
and you would put the tip of your base on the wall.
It wasn't a car seat then. It was one of them little rocker things
Okay,
that you
okay.
put on the floor. And
Yep.
so I could put my foot on the end of that rocker and I could play bass. And and I still do that, which y'all didn't know where that came from. But I was learning to play bass, and I would keep time. And the only thing that would stop you from crying most of the time was listening to the music. I don't know if you remember, we used to call you Little Rock when you was in
Yeah.
California.
Yep.
Yeah,
Little Rock.
that's where the rock came from.
Oh, because you would rock me in a little bouncer thing.
In the bouncer thing while I was playing bass. Look at me. Well, and so I would do that, and you would just sit there and sing, and like you would stop crying. And so that was an incentive for me to keep playing.
So I couldn't have been under one.
It was under one, yeah, because I don't think you were walking,
Yeah.
but you could rock. You love that music. Anyway, the story about so as time went on and as you got older, me and you, our bond developed, and your mother's our roles was kind of reversed.
Mhm.
And so like the story that I tell is so many times that when we're all there and I would get ready to go somewhere, I'd get my coat and turn around and say bye to you and her. You was getting your coat too. And it's like, oh, so I just took you everywhere I went, except for work. And so I guess it just kind of started way back then.
I say all the time that I'm definitely not the most talented between all of us. Just for context, me and the oldest of my three brothers, I have three brothers, the oldest of the three, we have the same mother and father. He is probably, there ain't no probably, he is hands down the most musically talented.
Well, James.
James,
Yes. Well, Jamar says we're.
He likes to think he is.
We can all sing.
I have a brother. He think he sound like Barry Manilow. Is he? Yeah. And my youngest brother, he was quick on picking up.
Yeah.
I don't think he necessarily had the interest like
The rest
James did, yeah, but he was quick to pick up really anything. He was quick to pick up anything.
Right.
But I have always said that I feel like I have music in my blood, like it's in my veins. I can't think of life without being intrigued by it or in awe of it. I go to concerts and I'm so different than everybody else is there. Like everybody else gets so caught up in the lights and the music. I'm listening to the bass line. I'm hearing how clean the drummer's mics sound and
Yeah, that was kind of put into you very early.
yeah. I remember okay, before I get there, because it's going to lead to this. So General Motors was laying you off and, back and forth and back and forth. Because we had this conversation the other day. I was trying to figure out when the Army came in. Because I knew you worked at General Motors and I also knew that you was in the Army. And so.
Well, my original dream was to go to Musicians Institute in Hollywood. And by me being hired at General Motors at 19, that kind of took away a lot of dreams as far as me being all I can be, as you say. But one day in the midst of all that working and getting laid off, I actually heard a commercial that said you can be all you can be. And it was an Army commercial. So I went in the Army actually on April Fool's Day of 1980. So I started General Motors in 77. So
I wasn't even 3 yet.
yeah, you were very young still. And so I took a military leave from General Motors in 1980, from 1980 to 84. And that's when we all went to California.
So then we was in California, I remember Maserati.
Yeah. Yeah.
My parents had, was it your band or you just playing in the band?
It was a
It was always your band.
yeah, it was a wee band. I was the band leader. I ended up being the band leader. I guess, yeah, I guess it did. But it was kind of a wee band. We just kind of got together and I guess I always organized things. So in the long run, I guess it made me the band leader, but that was more of a guys coming together. So everybody that was in the band was in the Army except your mother.
My mama was a powerhouse soprano,
Yeah.
crazy strong.
Well, I mean, she is still
She still is, yeah, she still is. I remember, I wish we could find those. It was that one cassette
yeah.
tape,
Mom.
Maya, at the end.
Yeah.
Band rehearsal, and I was there. I can imagine I probably was getting it.
Running all around the room and singing and dancing, and we ended a song. It was like an abrupt ending, and we could hear your little voice, Mom, Mom.
On the cassette.
I bet y'all still got that tape somewhere.
I hope we can find it.
I'll look for it.
That would be awesome. So I've been very transparent about my mom having challenges for really all of my life, because of some unhealed and undealt with childhood stuff. And that showed up, it obviously showed up in my parents' marriage. And something that I didn't know, I'm trying to think how old I was when I realized it, that my dad married my mom twice. But the reason why he married my mom the second time, I like to say I'm responsible for. I guess I kind of am. Because you
Yes, you are. You know, like so many parents, you want the best for your kids. Every responsible parent does. And when we got divorced the first time, and like, you know, I don't know how much you want to go into it, but she was having issues, and it was a bad situation. And so, you know, I just didn't really want any part of that. What I didn't know, being young, I mean, you know, I don't know how old I was, 19, 20. Well, no, I was
like
no,
23 or 24 by this time.
no, because because actually it was when we went to California, we actually got married again. So
y'all got married again out there?
Before we went.
Before y'all left.
Before we went, because we had to be, in order for you guys to come with me and have housing and stuff. And so that was kind of a big deal, but which is a whole different story. But in the meantime, with me deciding that, you know, that I didn't want to deal with those issues in my life, and plus the church was all involved, and you know, her family was a huge part of Zion, and I became the bad guy in the whole situation because I didn't talk. You know, I didn't point fingers. We were having issues, but I just kept it to myself. But other people weren't doing that. And so anyway, one day I was watching, I don't know if it was a newscast or I read something. I don't know what it was. I don't really remember. But it said that kids, their most formative years are 1 through 4. And by the time they get to 4, that they develop who they are. So you couldn't have been 4. You were younger than 4. And I just remember saying to myself that I'd be damned. Can I say that?
Yep.
That I would let my daughter be imprinted by anybody other than me. And so I I went back into it because I felt like I needed to be in your life, especially at those critical years. And whatever happiness or unhappiness that I was going to experience was worth it to give you the best opportunity. So, I don't know if that's all any special or anything, but that's the way I felt, and that's what I did.
I've also been pretty transparent about mom's struggle with drugs and um numbing and not coping with certain things. And I'm kind of jumping ahead and I'll come back, but I I I did an episode with the kids and we were talking about their different experiences, right? Like
Mm.
BJ going to live with Ben and how Ben was very adamant of BJ respecting me in the same way that you were adamant about us respecting mom. And then how Corinne kind of had the opposite experience in that her parent did everything he could to drag me. So that she would feel differently. And so, and I mentioned something about people, and I didn't know when it happened, but I knew that there was a lot of people who was trying to make you the enemy. But I didn't know, what was it because you was divorcing her, or was it because, what was why did everybody have opinions?
Because I was, they were the church family, and I was, at that time by that time I was playing in bands, and we was playing in clubs and stuff. And so um Mary, Simon, um, one of my, best friends and bandmates for years and years and years, called hell for years from Bethesda because she was in the club singing and stuff. People just wanting to play and whatever. So I was kind of caught up in that a little bit, and honestly, being a part of that whole club scene, there was women, and there was bad things going on at the house. Um, and so, there's some things that happened that I got into that at the time, being young and what's the word? I felt entitled. Um, because, as I look back on it now, obviously when you're young, you don't have wisdom, so I talk about this all the time. Everybody in my life that knew me knew, I'm smart, I was intelligent. But when you're young, that's not enough. You have to have wisdom combined with intelligence to make wise decisions. So I made some decisions that I thought about, and obviously I should not have been doing some of those things. I probably should have handled it different, but you're 19, 20 years old. What you gonna do? So um so some of those things were going around to, this girl likes him, that girl likes him and stuff. And for me, it's kind of funny, which is a whole totally different. I don't know.
No, come on, let's talk.
For me, it was a whole totally different thing because I, in my 20-something-year-old mind, I never went after these relationships. It's like women were always approaching me, and I always tried to go home, and eventually I did. But what I'm saying, it was like, so in my mind, it's like I'm not out here chasing these women down, which is again the juvenile mind, understand. So, but I didn't want anything to do with that whole drug thing, and she really wants, the deeper she got into that, I mean, just like everybody else, the drug just totally takes you away. And, so I'd come home and she'd be in a stupor or whatever, and I was like, so,
Yeah.
but that's what her church and her friends and all that, they erased all of that and
Was focused on
focused
what
on it.
you-
Yeah,
yeah.
what I was doing. And like I said, I was not, um I made mistakes, just like all young people do. I don't beat myself up about it, just like I was talking to somebody the other day, and you know this, with my kids, I only wanted to know one thing. What were you thinking? Because to me, as a parent, your kids are going to make mistakes. And those mistakes, you can come down hard because a kid did something, but they don't learn nothing from that. So for me, I wanted you to tell me what you were thinking, because so many times I got in trouble when I was a kid because my mother was a black and white person. I told you not to do it and you did it, you're in trouble. I don't care why. For example, she had a friend that lived across the street from us. She came home, she was getting her groceries out of the car, but mama told me earlier in the day not to leave the yard, which was daycare back in them days. So I seen Miss Liz getting her groceries out the car. So me being the way that I had been raised, I was like, can I help you? And she was like, yeah, come over. So I'm taking groceries in and out of the house. You know how it works. Soon as she got all the groceries in the house, and then she's in the house and I'm coming out the house, getting ready to come back across the street. Here comes mom. And she ain't trying to hear nothing. So with my kids, I always wanted to know what you were thinking, because for me, I can help you. I always felt like I can help you think better. So it's like I can whoop you, or I can try to help you think better. As you know, my biggest pet peeve with all of y'all was, why did you do that? I don't know.
Cause I said this on the episode,
Oh,
like
okay,
that,
okay.
this would
Yeah.
burn him
That
up.
yeah, that was not acceptable. Again, that was my theory and my take on parenting and fatherhood, because I wanted you thinking, and because being Black in America, you know, is already, you're already disadvantaged.
Yeah.
And so you're out there doing things without thinking, and then once you learn to think, then the next thing is you just grow and mature, and then you'll make better, hopefully better decisions, but thinking always needs to be first in my mind. And that's what I try to instill.
Yeah. Which is what I started um doing with my kids. Asking why. And so
Yeah.
why did you do that? Trying to hear him out and make it a learning, it's a learning opportunity. But that had everything to do with you and how you um corrected us and what that looked like. I shared the story about, there was one time that I got in trouble, only one time,
Yeah.
in middle school.
I
I drew that picture and got caught, and I still say it to this day. I don't necessarily feel like I got in. It was one time I got, if you want to call it a whooping, he popped me maybe 3 times, and that was it. But there was 2 things. Number one, the torture of waiting for him to get home was the worst part of it. And 2, I feel like I really only got in trouble because I lied to him. I lied to him and told him that I didn't do it. And so he come up to the school to advocate for me.
Absolutely.
And I walk in that office, they call me down to that principal's office. And that principal was like, well, Mr. Dickerson, Kimberly already said. And I feel this small, and I just seen my daddy's face and was like, he didn't even say, the only thing he said to me was, go back to class. I was like, ooh, I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble. I knew I was in trouble. But I knew it was because I liked, more than anything. Yes, I shouldn't have drew the picture. It was a nasty picture. I don't even know why. But
I know exactly what it was.
I know what it was too. I don't know why I was drawing it, is what I was gonna say. I remember what it was, but I feel like I got in trouble more than anything for lying to you about the situation.
Yeah, yeah, it was, this is funny, but you said it earlier about the effect that how you were parented, good or bad, has an effect on you. And I have to go back to my mother because I was raised, by my mother only. And like I said, she was black and white. And she never, I mean, if not being racial about it, it was different back in those days. But if a white person told her that I did something, be it a teacher, a counselor, or whatever, I think, and I can't speak for her, but I think it embarrassed her in that generation that their kids was doing something. And so there was nothing I could say. And so I just thought then, and I think now that that's wrong. And so when the teacher called me and told me what you did, and I asked you if you did it, you was like, no, daddy, I didn't do it. I'll be damned if I'm not going to go up here and stand up.
Yep.
So I go in this office and you know, I'm not ever going to be disrespectful, but I was pissing vinegar. They knew I was not happy about it. And she said just exactly those same words. Mr. Dickerson, she already told us that she did it. And you know, you're in the middle of a thing and then it's like, oh. And what's even worse that you don't know or maybe don't remember. Before I went to the school, I was actually, we were staying with my mother at that time, I believe. And so I was telling my mother what the teacher said, and I'm getting ready to go out there and blah, 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 blah. And this mom was like, yeah.
I didn't know that.
So I come back home and she asked me, what happened?
So she was advocating for me too.
Oh, yeah.
Lord.
Yeah, she didn't advocate for me, but she advocated for
me.
because you was her,
I was her girl.
yeah, you was her girl. And so, yeah, so then I had to go back and tell her what happened.
I can only imagine.
And I, yeah. Yeah. It's kind of funny because I can feel all that emotion right now. I can feel it. And even when you got your quote unquote whooping, the parents say this all the time. This is going to hurt me more than it hurt you. I honestly believe that hurt me more than it hurt you.
I believe it.
I think we was both crying.
I believe it. And I said, I think
But
he
it-
even hugged me afterwards.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you remember this, but you came in and you asked me why. Why did I lie? I don't even think we talked about why did I draw the picture. The conversation was about why did I lie, and that I don't have to lie, and that you always gonna stand up for me, and yada yada yada. And then you left. So now I'm thinking it's over, which that was painful to hear how I hurt I broke your heart. That's how I felt. Like I broke my daddy's heart, the lion, and he up there. So I'm already crushed. And it felt like another hour. Then you came back in and popped me a couple times and then hugged me and walked back out. And I swear to this day, I still say it, I'm like, I don't even think you really wanted to, I don't think you wanted to whoop me.
It was, I wanted to, but I couldn't. But mama was downstairs. So seriously, when I left the room, I was in between downstairs and up there pacing. Because I know, mama was advocating for you, but as soon as she found out what happened, she was like, you didn't whoop. And
If
I
you
had,
would have went back down there without whooping me.
yeah, it was, yeah, it was, I feel it right now, which is strange, but yeah, it was, I get, and it's different, we talking about, you know, daughters and fathers and daughters and fathers and sons, what I popping one of the boys upside the head in a minute, not my daughter, not my girl, so. And then you being the first and we spend, I never, once I got through that initial period at General Motors where I was laid off, once I got my 90 days in and we was working regular, I never had that kind of time with any of the other kids. So the bond that I was able to form with you was a daddy's going to work kind of bond with the rest of them and trying to get together on the weekends and try to go to Coney Island, not Coney Island, but Kings Island and different little getaways and stuff like that and which was not the same as me grabbing my coat and turning around and there you are. So me and the fellas down at the parking lot listening to music, laughing, and they're all just me and a bunch of guys and you.
That is too funny. They never made you feel weird about me being there?
No, I think honestly, so many of them, had, I guess, what these young kids call now baby mama issues. At the time, I had them later, but at the time, I didn't have those issues. So I think some of them was even envious that you were there and they didn't have their kids or know where they were, and then some of them didn't want to. I don't know, but for me, I could never see you cry. So um if it could stop you from crying to be with me, then you was just gonna be with me. So no, nobody, and then Carl was your godfather. And so it was, you just ran around and hung out.
Good. That's good. Okay. So there were a couple times then, now that I'm understanding more of the story, because the stuff that was happening with my mom, the drugs and everything in the church running their mouth, that was clearly when I was younger, like when James was a baby. Like I'm younger, James was a baby. But then it clearly had to happen again, because I remember, I had to be in middle school. It wasn't when you got us, but it was like right around that time. I know it was still a lot of chatter happening, but by this time, y'all had been divorced. And so in one of my early episodes, I talked about, maybe episode 2, maybe, I talked about having daddy issues because of mommy mess. And I was sharing how I developed this fear of you because of stuff that she was saying. That I didn't realize that I had this fear of you. We just really like got to the root of that. Maybe like in the last 10 years or so, we've really figured that out. But stuff that she would say. So at this time, we living on Arrow. And this is before you went to Musicians Institute, you work in second shift at the factory, and you would drive by the house and we would wave. And that's all we got. That's all we got. And sometimes, I remember sometimes we would go down on the weekends, like I don't know if it was every other weekend, but
Believe me, it was.
okay. On the weekends, we would go down. But she would say stuff like, well, I'm gonna call your daddy to come whoop you. Well, I'm gonna call you, you know, she will weaponize you in the
Yes.
house. So then when you would come, we wouldn't think that you come in, you know, just because you want to see us or whatever, somebody in trouble. So, so because of that, all of that conversation, I'm gonna tell your daddy, I'm gonna tell your daddy to come whoop you. You know, I'm gonna make your daddy come, whatever, your daddy. It was never anything positive. In addition to, oh, you think you smart like your daddy. Oh, you get, you know, looking like your daddy. Yo, silly looking self, looking like your dad. It was all the negative stuff. Oh, you think you smart like your daddy. All of the negative stuff connected to dad, which subconsciously created this fear. And I don't know if it was fear of him or fear of disappointing him, or I don't know what it was, but it was so deeply ingrained in me that by the time we go to live with you, so let me back up just a little bit. So things got really crazy, really crazy. But by this time, you had took a leave from General Motors and went to Musicians Institute. And how did you know what was happening?
Mom called me one night.
How did she know?
It's Anderson.
Yeah,
People
you're
talk.
right.
People
You're right.
talk. You know, all the cousins and everybody knew the Zion church family was supposedly taking care of y'all, and it was trying to keep all that stuff under wraps, but it's Anderson. And so, did you not know the story about what happened
No,
on my side?
no,
It's a long story, but
that's another
yeah,
episode.
that's another episode. But what it essentially boiled down to was I had these big money people in Hollywood get interested in me. And they had started to groom me to be a songwriter. And I was supposed to be preparing to do a movie soundtrack, a soundtrack for a movie. But I had a hard deadline that I had to be back at General Motors. So they asked me to drop out of Musicians Institute, which I did. So the second 6 months that I was out there in California, I was not at Musicians Institute. I was actually, I want to say working, but I was writing songs and writing music, preparing to work for this production company. And this lady that was the head of this production company on Hollywood and Vine talked me into doing this, and that she hooked me up with a lawyer from Burbank. I was out in his office and overlooking Warner Brothers Studios. You could see out on the lot, and you could see him moving scenes and stuff around in his office. I'm standing up there and I'm thinking, oh my God, I've made it, you know. But everything in Hollywood is called oh, what's the word? It's slipping my mind now. But based spec. Everything is on spec. So there's a million movies that get made a year. But if it doesn't get picked up, if one of the studios doesn't buy it, then it just sits on the shelf.
Gotcha.
So this movie was being filmed in North Carolina, and they were going to edit it in New York, and then they were going to send it out to California for me to do the soundtrack to, which I had never done a soundtrack before. But this lady was so enamored with my songwriting skills and what I had been doing that she personally was taking her company. She had just formed a new company with a friend of hers. And this was the first thing that they had bid on, and I was going to do the music. And she was coming down to my little apartment studio to help me with it every day. So I'm like,
That's what you went for.
it was even more than I went for.
Yeah.
I really went to learn how to play keyboards better. And I was going to network and everything, but never in my wildest dreams did I think that I was going to hook up with powerful people in Hollywood. And so the problem was that the film got held up in New York because they edited and sent it back to the people in North Carolina, and they hated it. So now they're fighting over this film, and I'm waiting. And what happened is my deadline to be back at General Motors was like April the 1st of whatever that year was. And we're deep into March.
Oh, wow.
And I'm calling her every day. Where's this movie at? Which, and I'm in agony. I mean, I'm like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And it never, this is why I say smart people ain't always, you need wisdom.
Yeah.
At no time did I think, why don't you just go get a job? The reason being that it wasn't that much about going back to General Motors, but my child support and all that stuff had been paid up for the year. And my rent in my apartment out there had been paid up for a year. Everything had been paid up for 1 year. So not only was I having to be back at General Motors, everything was becoming due April the 1st. But it never occurred to me with all that stuff that was going on, meeting all these people and getting all these, had all these songs that I was listening to because I needed to write songs in the style of this group. And it never occurred to me, hey, just go and find a job. So time is going on and on and on and on. I had about a month or so once it started getting tight. So we get down to the last 2 weeks when it finally occurred to me that Tim was out. You remember Tim. Tim was there and Christina was there, which was kind of my team. And so between the three of us, one of us was finally like, why don't you try to find a job out here? And it was like, duh. Yeah, it's like, but by that time I'm running around and I'm starting applying for these jobs during the day and trying to do all this other kind of stuff. And it was running me ragged, and it was physically affecting me.
Yeah.
And then they're calling me down there, just hold on, everything, they're, just hold on. We believe in you. You're going to be great. You're going to be the next, and I'm hearing all that. And this deadline is just creeping up day and day. And then, I apply for these jobs, and of course, I'm not hearing back from anybody. And so I'm about, I did something that I hadn't done in a long time. And I prayed. I got down on my knees and I prayed. A couple days later, Mama called and said, Karen is on these drugs and the church is looking out for your kids, and you need to come home and take care of your kids. I just said, there's my answer. There's my answer. And, just like anything else, I always wonder what would have happened had I had the opportunity, but I didn't get it, so I came back home, and what happened from there, and I come back home into a mess because Karen's a mess and little James is having his issues, and me and you have talked about this a few times already. So I'm coming in, I'm trying, I'm still just 23, 20, I don't know. I was still young. So I'm trying to come home.
30 by then, because I
Was
was
that-
there. Yeah, this was
This was after I went to the Army. So so I come back and I'm trying to James has some apparent problems.
A lot.
Yeah. And so I come in and I'm trying to, be the best dad I can be. And, I got you and I got him, and his problems are apparent, yours are not. So I jump into that knee deep, which I'm finding out years later that you had issues too that I didn't see and I wasn't experienced enough. And I've apologized because, it makes me emotional. Because I didn't have enough experience and enough people around me to really say, hey, maybe you ought to, talk to your daughter or see how she's doing, because you always have this exterior like you're in control. And I just didn't. When you get to be my age, you look back at things and, I know that I did the right thing by coming back and doing what I did. And I do that 100 times out of 100. But, just like young people all the time, I'm just throwing stuff up against the wall. I had no guidance. And so I was just doing the best I could. So anyway, that's kind of the short story to how all that happened. My mother called me that night. I remember it was like 1 o'clock in the morning. And she was like, you need to come home and take care of your kids.
Do you remember, and you have apologized, but I didn't even know I had I didn't know nothing was wrong with me. If somebody would have asked, I would have said I was fine too. So,
I started hearing stories about what was happening with you and James while I was gone, and being with Norman and all of them and all them different things. And it was a little nightmarish for a father to hear. And, like I said, I some of that stuff was years after, so I didn't know, and I didn't have enough wherewithal at that point in my life to even, like I said, I came back into a mess. And so it's like, okay, we had to find a place. I had to find a place. I had to try to get you. I had to get you in school. So it was like stuff that I even being there and having you, it was the first time that I was ever like totally in charge, responsible. I was just used to paying bills. And so my plate was full, but you know, as you get older, you always look back at things, and I don't want to say, maybe it is a regret, I don't know, but I I wish I would have known, or I can't say handle it better, because I handled it the best I could with what I knew at the time.
so then if you had known more, then
You just, that's where life experience comes in, but it's also where family comes in. Like, I think um having somebody, a dad of my own maybe, or even a big brother or somebody to come in and say, like I said, hey, maybe you might want to look at this, or maybe something like that. But I didn't have that.
I don't think that would have, I think even if you would have, I don't know that would have been the recommendation, because you come from a generation of people who didn't really believe in therapy, didn't believe in, you just pray about stuff. And you didn't even come from that kind of a family. I mean, Grandma Ethel went to church, but I mean, compared to my family,
Yeah.
right? So I think even having
Or your mother's family,
yeah,
actually.
yeah, mom's side of the family.
Yeah.
I think even if you would have had somebody that, big brother, dad, whatever, I don't think the recommendation would have been the same as your recommendations to me regarding Corinne. Because it was just a different time. And so I don't know that the wisdom around you would have prompted you to see about me in that way.
Maybe not in the depths of it,
Yeah.
but I did not. I mean, the amount of time that I spent with James, I mean, I remember sending him to counseling and we were trying these different things because he was having his issues. And, you know, I was spending money there and it just wasn't equal. I mean, it was like, okay, okay, she's good, you know, and so even if they weren't able to say, okay, she's got underlying issues, you know, even just, hey, you know, why don't you take your daughter to a movie, you know, or go get some ice cream or something. At least give you a chance to talk to me because by that now at that time, not only was I doing all that stuff, I also was working in the factory and I was transitioning to skilled trades, which meant that I had to go to school at night. But I was doing that so that I could do more for you guys. So I was there even less.
Yep.
Um, it's it's bringing up thoughts and things from that I hadn't really thought about. But um, like I tell you the story, just a perfect example of what I'm talking about. When you had your senior day at church and you came in there and you asked me, Dad, you going to church today? Well, I never went to church with you. When I did, I didn't go to that church. Never went to church with you. So I'm like, no. And you're like, okay, out the door.
Too scared to say,
Yeah,
hey, Dad, it's senior day at church. I would like for you to go to church with me.
exactly. So Carol comes in there maybe half an hour later and she was like, did Kim ask you to go to church with her? I was like, yeah, that was strange. She was like, she really wanted you to go to church with her. And I was like, she didn't really act like she really wanted me to go. She's like, she really did. She is senior day. I'm like, senior day. She's like, yeah, all the kids get. I was like, oh my God. So I'm jumped up. I'm taking a shower. I'm driving 1,000 miles. And I got there, I think just as you know, got called up or
Yeah.
whatever, and I got tears in my streamed down my face, and you got tears streamed down. And
the whole church goes nuts.
yeah, and it's kind of like a movie, really.
Was.
But the fact that I was out of touch, and you know, the fact that you felt that you couldn't tell me hurt me as much as it did the thing at school that time, because it's like, you know, I always tried, and I failed evidently, to encourage you kids to talk to me, because I wasn't one of those parents that if you're in trouble, I want you to talk to me. Tell me what you're thinking. Tell me what's going on. Tell me, I'm not going to jump down your throat. But that persona was there. And I never really understood. And that might have tied into what you was talking about.
That's exactly what it is. That's what I was gonna say. So part of what the point I was making in that mommy mess episode, Daddy Issues Mommy Mess, she had did that for years, so much so that I wasn't necessarily afraid. I wasn't afraid of you per se, more so than I was afraid of being a problem or being in the way or asking too much, or like I learned that it was bad. I'm gonna tell you what else happened too. I remember her, this still on Arrow. I can't remember what she was getting Jay for. I mean, just getting him, just pop, pop, pop. And I'm in the kitchen washing dishes, and she is murdering this dude with a flip flop, house shoe, a flip flop or something. She just going in. And my little silly self steps out around the corner and I'm like, okay, mommy, he's sorry. She said, you shut up. I wasn't talking to you. So I go back to washing my dishes. She get done with him and then here come the footsteps. Here she come in the kitchen. Here she come in the kitchen. And she get me for saying something. So it was, and it was multiple times where even though I was the oldest, and she would leave me in charge. And so I'm telling JR what I'm thinking is the right thing to do, then she getting on me for not letting him, and so it just developed this sense of
Distrust
just
of
stay out the
authority,
way.
yeah.
Just don't rock the boat, just be quiet, just don't ask for nothing, don't, you know what I mean? And so, which is what made me start, I don't know if I told you this, I would steal her food stamps, did you know that? I would,
First time I'm hearing that.
I would steal the food stamps, like I would, whenever I seen them, you know, that's when we had to do a paper food stamps at this point. Cause she was selling them. And so when I realized that she was selling the food stamps, whenever I would find them, I would take them. I wouldn't take the whole book, like I would take enough out the book. And I would ride my bicycle to the grocery store. But just not asking, Mom, what we gonna eat? Mom, what? I just figured it out. I would just figure it out. And so by the time we got to you, we living with you, lights ain't cut off, cable still on, phone on, just stay out the way. And because of everything that was going on with JR, it was like, just stay out the way. Just stay out the way. And so I didn't realize though, because you asked like, why won't you? And I'm like, I don't know. I didn't have an answer, nothing, no, yeah, we could talk to you, I didn't know, it was so deeply ingrained in me by this time that it was just a part of who I was, not, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand it now, but it used to really bother me because I don't know if you remember this, even when we were down in Indianapolis and Dot and them was down there one time and you was telling me, oh, Dad will go off about something. And I was like, I don't remember really going off about much of anything. Um, it's just funny the things you learn about life and individuals. Like I was telling you, BJ, my grandson was telling me things that Papa, you remember this? No, but he remembered it clearly, you know, and it had a effect on his life, and he still talks about it, you know, and so it's there's so many things between, especially between fathers and daughters, and you know, you just I'm just so proud of you. I'm sure every father is, but I'm this father, and this is my daughter, and this is my story.
So this won't be our only episode.
I ain't that interesting.
It is good, it's good. I think it's good conversation.
It is good conversation.
I think, in our last 2 minutes, because we got 2 minutes left. I think what I've said about you before, especially in that whole mommy mess conversation or whatever, is, and you said it in this episode, not even knowing that I had already said that, but you were very clear that regardless of what was going on with my mother, regardless of what she was saying to you or doing to you, treating you, any of those things, you set a standard in our house, regarding how we were going to respect her and even how you respected her. So in closing for this episode, because we got so much more to talk about. What words of wisdom would you give to a parent? Because you've been on both sides. You've been on the side, you've been the person that's been dogged out and attacked. And then you've also been the person that could do the dogging and attack, and you chose not to. what words of wisdom would you give to a parent who's doing it or who's receiving it?
This is another thing that I try to instill in you guys. And it's a broader message, but it fits this here too. So many times we're right about something. I owe you child support. Okay. What we do as Black people, I know we do it as Black people, but not just Black people. We make ourselves wrong when we're right. So my thing is this: if you're right, stay right. So if I owe you child support, then you can come to me and say, you know, I need this child support. You're right. But when you come in and you like, you no good, and you this and you that and you this and you and your mama ain't this and your mama ain't that, now you done made yourself wrong.
Yeah.
And so I remember her, oh no, I don't want to. So that would be my key. Stay right. Stay right. It's not that hard to just try your best to stay right. That's all. Not get caught up in a whole bunch of drama that ain't going nowhere and it's not good and the kids see it and they don't need to see it, and stay right.
He protected us from a lot of that. I'm sure there's so many stories that he could tell, that he has not told, like even to this day. Y'all heard him like, did I tell you about this? You know, because it didn't matter. And so I hope y'all enjoyed this episode. We coming back. You can go get that. We coming back next time because I want to talk to him about how he was able to stay right, right? There were some stuff that I put my dad through, and we're gonna talk about how he was able to keep his position during all of that. So I hope y'all love the episode. Let me know what you think. We'll see y'all next time. Peace out.